Okay guys, I'm sorry I can't be with you, but I'm gonna try and help you out today by showing you what you're gonna be doing. So get your bunny all prepared, and the first thing we're gonna do is actually in your iPad, find the page that looks like that, and then go to this page, which is opening the ventral body cavity. So what you're going to do is, first of all, your bunny's already been opened and then they sewed it shut. So take your dissection scissors and you need to cut through this string and discard it. You can just leave it on the pad for now, but he's basically been sewn shut. All right, so now this is the inside of the bunny. Now we need to cut further so you can actually open it up. So take your dissection scissors and cut all the way down, sort of the groin area. And then I want you to actually cut backwards along the side of the body, right here, just so you'll be able to open this up sort of like flaps of a book, okay? So cut along here, and then do that on the other side. I'm gonna do that on the other side. Okay, so now that's open. Now I need to cut towards the throat. So this is gonna get hard because literally the sternum is right here. So you're gonna keep cutting straight upwards, and you're using your dissection scissors. You are not using a scalpel for this. And then suddenly it's gonna get really hard to cut. It's gonna make kind of a bad crunchy noise. You're not gonna like that. And that is the sternum. Now you don't wanna cut too deep because you could hit the heart under here. So see, I'm cutting straight up that way. So just be careful. I'm gonna keep cutting straight up towards the larynx. All the way up. Don't make a mess of it because you want to be able to see everything that's in there. Okay, so now I cut there. Now you'll see, so this is the sternum here that I cut through. It actually wasn't that hard. It's harder to do on the cat. Now, if I tried to actually open this right now, you're gonna see that there's a tissue here that's keeping it from opening. So here, I'm gonna show you closer. Ooh, gross. That is the diaphragm. You need to pull the diaphragm away or cut it away from the sides. All right, so I just pulled it away and now I can cut it off of sort of the side of the body cavity so that I can open this up all the way. So that's the diaphragm right here. I'm gonna do that on the other side as well. Okay, all right. Now to get it to completely open, somebody in your group is gonna have to be brave because you kind of have to crack it, and sometimes you can hear the ribs snap. Some people don't like that. This one didn't really do that. So now you need to wash out the inside of your rabbit. Some of you may have some kind of brown gook in here. It's just like fluids that dried, and see this? It looks kind of like, it looks yucky. All right, you want to get that out. So go take your bunny to the sink and wash out the inside of the bunny, and then make sure you drain it before you bring it back to your table. Okay. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the abdominal cavity, and I want you to get to this page in your iBook. And one thing that I also did after I washed it out is I cut down the sides here so that the sides could lay more flat and I didn't have to hold them back. All right, so the first thing you need to find is the diaphragm. That is this structure right here. You cut that away when you were trying to open up the rabbit, so it lays like that. It's a flat muscular sheet that you learned was involved with respiration. Okay. So we're gonna move that. This large structure here, this is the liver, okay? And the liver has multiple lobes. See how there's like pieces to it? So when you're looking at it, think of it in terms of it's the bunny's liver. So this right here, I'll use this poker, right here, this is the right lobe of the liver. Then the left lobes are divided into left medial and left lateral. Remember, medial means it's more towards the midline, lateral is more towards the outside. So right lobe, left medial, left lateral. If you pick up these three lobes, you'll see there's a lobe inside here. I don't know how well you can see that. All right, that lobe is called the quadrate lobe. So it's sort of the fourth lobe, so quad, that's the fourth lobe. There's actually a fifth lobe that's hiding, and that is back here, right here. Okay, it's by the right kidney. If you look back here, you'll see there's a little guy, this little guy right here, that's a kidney. All right, so this is the caudate lobe. So it's the lobe that's sort of pointing towards the caudal region or the posterior, you know, the back of the rabbit. So right lateral, sorry, right lobe, left medial, left lateral, quadrate, and caudate lobe. Okay, so that's the liver. Now I want you to find the gallbladder. The gallbladder is a structure that's found on the underside of the liver. And the liver makes something called bile, and bile helps you digest fat. And then it sends the bile into the gallbladder that stores it. So if you lift up the liver, you're gonna see underneath here, right in here, there's like a green little pouch. Let's see, it's right there. All right, this green little pouch is the gallbladder. So you want to find that. So you have to lift up the liver in order to find that. So that is the gallbladder. And for some of you, it'll be really green. Some of you, it might not be that green. Mine isn't very green, but bile is green. So that's why sometimes you can see that pretty clearly. But it's a little pouch. It's like a little balloon on the underside of the liver. Okay, so you found the gallbladder. Next is the spleen. The spleen, you're going to look on the left side, the bunny's left side, for this thing, I always call it the boomerang. And see this? It's like this little brown structure. It's kind of the same color as the liver. That is the spleen. Okay, so find the spleen. It wraps around the back, but it looks like a little boomerang. So that's the spleen, tiny. So you found that. Next page has to do with the stomach. So the stomach, your rabbit's stomach may still be filled with food, which is gross. Okay, so the stomach in this rabbit is very large. If you lift up the liver, it's this large structure here. So there's different parts of the stomach. Let me light that up a little. Okay, so where the esophagus hits the stomach is right about up here. This area where the esophagus hits is called the cardiac region. Right here is the cardiac region. It's closest to the heart. That's how I remember it. Okay? And then this big structure here is called the fundus. All right? That's the fundus of the stomach. The majority of it is called the body. So most of the stomach is called the body. And then at the end, this end here is called the pyloric region. And then where it hits the small intestine, there's a sphincter. Everybody likes that word, sphincter. So here, there's the pyloric sphincter. So you're going to want to take a look at the stomach, find the parts of the stomach, and I think you have to label it on a diagram. And then it says open the stomach. Let's not do that. I think that you just kind of don't know what's going to be in there and it doesn't smell good, so we're not going to open the stomach. We can do that once I return if you really want to. Okay, so try to find all of the bold-faced words in the iBook and label your diagram. The next thing we're going to find is the pancreas. The pancreas is weird in that you sort of expect it's going to look here like the spleen, but it's just really like chunky material that's found in this webby stuff. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but in here, all right, I'm moving the spleen. In here, there's like this webby, chunky stuff, and it's underneath the stomach. That is the pancreas. You can find some of it. This is the small intestine going down. You can find some pancreas right here as well. So kind of look for this chunky material. That's the pancreas. It is a gland, and it's a little difficult to find. So, okay, now we're going to look at the small intestines and the large intestines. So find the stomach, and where the stomach hits the small intestine, that first part of the small intestine is called the duodenum. So this part is the duodenum. So some people pronounce it duodenum. It's up to you, whatever. So duodenum, and then I'm just going to keep tracing it. And suddenly there's going to be sort of this webby material. That is the mesentery, the intestinal mesentery. The web, it holds the blood vessels, and those blood vessels take the nutrients from the digested food into your bloodstream. So all of this sort of pink, flat-ish guts, this is jejunum. That's the second part of the small intestine. So this is all jejunum, jejunum. So you can keep following this, jejunum, jejunum, jejunum. All right, I'm still following it, I'm still following it, I'm still following it. And then I come to the end of the jejunum, and I find this part here. There are 3 components here. This is like the grossest sandwich you ever saw. So up the middle is the end of the small intestine. This part of the small intestine is called the ileum. That's the end of the small intestine. So if I ask you to show me the ileum, that's it. All right. Now to one side of the ileum is this big flat structure. This is the cecum. We don't have this in humans because we are not herbivores. Any large herbivore has this extra sort of part of their digestive system that's really important for digesting cellulose. So this is their cecum, and then on this side is the large intestine. The large intestine has these bubbles. These are called the haustra, and the large intestine's job is just to remove liquid from fecal matter. Okay, so it returns that water back to your blood system. So through the middle is the ileum. On one side, I have the large intestine. On the other side, I have the cecum. Now, if I look more at the cecum, what I'll notice is at the very end of it, I'm just tracing the cecum, and you can kind of like remove some of this stuff. The very end of the cecum is this like blind pouch, like there. It just sort of ends. This is the appendix. All right, so in us, our cecum is gone, we don't have that, and we have a very small appendix that is found at the junction of the small intestine and the large intestine. That's all that's left. But in them, it's just this end of the cecum. So the cecum is the flat, big structure. The end of it here is the appendix. Now I can trace the large intestine, and the large intestine kind of winds all over the place, and then eventually it goes back here. If I move the guts out of the way, and it comes all the way down, and that is the descending colon. The descending colon is the final part of the large intestine, and the very end of the large intestine is called the rectum, and that's sort of like the poop holder. Okay, so that should do it for the intestines. So what you need to do now, once you find all of those things and you label it all in your packet, you need to kind of restructure him back together. You need to close him back up. You don't have to sew him back up, but then re-mummify him with the paper towels and clean up. All right, that's it for the abdominal cavity.